What's up, everybody? Welcome to Among the Fence. My name is Aaron. Today we're checking out the 11th studio album from Dance Gavin Dance titled Pantheon. A few years ago, I was a Dance Gavin Dance hater. My review on Afterburner, which was my very first time really ingesting their music, wasn't very positive, admittedly, but I was challenged by quite a bit of viewers at the end of the video where I asked them, like, I want to get into this band. Maybe I'm missing something. Give me some of their albums to check out. And I eventually came around. I first, of course, fell in love with Mothership. And then my love for basically all their other albums began to grow after that. And then I learned very quickly that there's a lot of debate that not only like which one of their albums is the best, but which one of their clean vocalists is the best. Something that this band has had its fair share of. I love pretty much all of their past vocalists. I gotta say Kurt Travis is probably my favorite. It's really hard. I love Happiness, but my favorite album from the band is Instant Gratification. Kind of weird, I know, but to me that's where like Tillian really fell into the groove of the band. It has the best technicalities in any of the albums. It has the best riffs in any of the albums, best drum work. The mix is perfect. The lyrics are just solid all the way through. That's just it for me. I know Mothership is considered to be the favorite. Instant Gratification to me though is just, it's top tier. And I gotta say, I did enjoy their last album, Jackpot Juicer. It does have its faults though. It was far from perfect. I would consider it to be part of like the lesser of their albums for sure. I feel like one of its main issues that I had a problem with is, first of all, it's 18 songs long, so it's pretty bloated. But also I kind of felt like Tillian wasn't really doing anything creative anymore. I felt like he kind of fell into like this groove that he just couldn't get out of. It felt like he was using the same melodies over and over again. The dude has so many tricks up his sleeve with his voice, and I felt like he just kind of ran out of them and started to reuse the same stuff. And after having some creative disagreements, as what the band said, they decided to part ways with Tillian, which was sad because honestly, I enjoyed his voice, but like I said, it just became tired. After 10 years of being with a band that's had 3 vocalists, switching vocalists almost every like 3 years, it's just, there's only so much you could do with it. And I feel like I said, his creativity had ran out. So they brought on vocalist Andrew Wells, who has actually been part of this band in one way or another since about 2015, mostly as like a touring musician and also a session musician. And eventually he kind of became part of the band in 2022 when Tillian had some allegations and stuff, and he was not playing with the band anymore. But then he came back and then he ended up leaving. So then he actually became fully part of the band in 2024 when Tillian was actually no longer there. He is also the vocalist, and I think he's a pretty prominent songwriter within Idola, which his work there has been heavily celebrated by me on this channel. I've given him tons of praise. I love pretty much all of their discography. Their last album wasn't the best, but it's still a really, really good album. With that said, I feel like his vocals fit more with Idola's style. Dance Gavin Dance clean vocalists usually are on par with John Mess in his growls, but Andrew seems to have taken more of like a backseat. He's more of like a backup vocalist, it seems like, throughout this album. And his super polished singing doesn't really hit as hard. Like he's not as daring. And because of that, like Dance Gavin Dance's clean vocalists, they're always just, they give it their all. And I feel like Andrew holds back a lot of this. And because of that, it does become a little boring at times. And also, like, this dude, he's destined to have all of his work with this band picked apart. He's coming into one of the hardest bands to really solidify himself within, even though he's been part of it for a while. I mean, people already love him. But I mean, following Tillian is tough. Love him or hate him, he wrote some of the catchiest melodies the band has ever seen. He could do insanely wild things with his voice. And like I said, he was daring. He'd go all in. His live performances are insane. The stuff he did, he did not hold back. And then in a good example of this is the opening track, Animal Surgery. It starts off very promising, honestly. The verses are chunky. John's vocals are demanding your attention. but then the chorus kind of falls apart. It just feels really weak. Will's guitar's playing is absolutely sick. The vocals just, they don't really hook you though. Like I said, they feel like more of a backup kind of thing. And I feel like that's kind of how this whole album goes. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying his vocals sound bad whatsoever. Like I said before, in Idala, he's just fantastic. It's just they don't really stand out that much at all within Dance Gavin Dance's music. This is a 5-minute long song. And after the first verse, you don't really get a whole lot of stuff until John Mess takes back over in the outro. Then we have Midnight at McGuffey's, which starts off like a track that you would find off of Acceptance Speech, but it loses its steam rather quickly. The vocals, again, just don't feel like they're doing all that much with the drums in the verse. And John Mess thankfully saves the chorus, and I gotta say, like, he's just so good. I feel like he's grown so much since their last album, and it's really cool to hear how much his vocals have changed, and he is definitely at his best right here. The guitar work is so good in verse 2 though, which definitely helps liven things up compared to verse 1. The melody and the hook and the chorus, it just kind of falls flat for me, and it makes me wish that it was over sooner just so we could get to the verses. And then there's this song, Robot with Human Hair, Rebirth. I don't know which number of Robot with Human Hair this is. It might be, I don't know, the 11th, I think. Maybe 12. I don't know. It's 10 somewhere. This is a huge running thing for them. And I actually always look forward to the Robot with Human Hairs segments, I guess you can say. And I gotta say, it was great. I actually dig this song a lot. Andrew sounds really good in the intro with the atmospheric stuff going on. The guitar tone in verse 1 is wild and, dare I say, very brave. Will playing this song live with that guitar tone, if you mess up, I mean, it's gonna be brutal. People are gonna realize you messed up. That guitar tone does not hide any mistakes whatsoever. The chorus is super sick too. The guitar and the drums just go into hyperdrive, and Andrew, he kills it. He sounds so good. And I gotta say, the thing that I like the most out of this song is the mix, specifically for the drums. They're just so powerful and sound so just alive. And then there is the really weird and exceptionally groovy song, The Conqueror Worm, with Will doing his thing in the intro. The vocal effect is so freaking cool. And Andrew sounds good once again in the chorus. It has a really good hook. Meanwhile, John sounds like a maniac in the verses. And I love the vocal effect on Will probably more than anything else in this song. It's super aggressive and playful in the refrain. It just gives so many different moods at the same time. And then there's the song Trap Door, which is fun, but unfortunately I feel like the vocals kind of fall flat again in the chorus. It feels like he's playing a little too safe while the drums aren't. It almost feels like you're watching a band where there's just one really good musician. That one musician is outshining everyone else, and by everyone else in this sense I mean the drums are outshining Andrew and his vocals, and it's not like something he can't do. I just feel like he's really playing it safe and holding back just a little bit too much. But the chorus does sound a little bit better the second time around. It's just, to me, past vocalists, I feel like they'd be a little bit more brash and a little bit more daring. It's basically the only word I could use. A little bit more daring than what Andrew is doing. And it could be argued that, he's doing his own thing. He's his own person. He sounds the way he sounds. But I feel like it just doesn't match up quite as well with the music. At least not 100% of the time. I mean, sometimes he does end up doing what I think, making the right choice during different moments. But otherwise, I feel like it's like, come on, Andrew, like, you could do it. I know you could do it. And then we have the song like Strawberry Daughters, where he sounds really good, but the music has changed. It sounds a little bit more Idala than it does Dance Gavin Dance. And then I just got to ask, what the heck is John doing in verse 2 on this song? It almost sounds like John is like playing a character, like he's singing with his chest puffed out and he's trying to act tough. And beyond that, honestly, I found the song to be pretty forgettable. Even the vocals in Space Cow Invitation Ritual were kind of meh to me. It does feature George Clinton, who I have no idea who that is. He's he's in the refrain, and he brings a really cool like old school hip hop kind of vibe to the party. It reminds me a lot of Daft Punk. I enjoyed it a lot. But the vocals in the chorus again feel very restrained. Even when Andrew is belting, at least it sounds like he's belting, it feels like he's pretty tame. But then you have John Mess who brings the heat in the outro. And then there's All the Way Down, which sounds great. The duet and the verses sounds fantastic. Andrew gives it like this pop punk kind of vibe, which is so cool in this song. The dadas sound really good with his somber tone. And it's kind of a nice callback to the Worm Conqueror, having those two just doing the same kind of thing, just a little bit differently. And then the post-chorus has John's version with the dadas, and it's almost funny just how ridiculous he is and how intense he is in this part, and I absolutely love it. The bridge is super colorful, and the lyrics are very clever. And then we have A Shoulder to Cry On, which has Andrew doing the same kind of somber thing, but there's a vocal effect on his voice, just giving it a little bit more of a breakup. And verse 2 is pretty weird too. It isolates the growls, and the rhythm is a little off-putting. It's just a different type of songwriting than what I'm really used to from this band, and it makes more sense once you get to the chorus. It almost sounds like a completely different band is playing, honestly. It takes a bunch of listens, at least for me, to really understand it and really get into the flow of the song. And it feels, because it's theatrical, it almost feels like an interlude, and I love it just because it sounds so different. And like it's just uncanny. Like it almost sounds like you're waiting for it to really come together, and then once it gets to the chorus it does, but at the same time you're kind of on the edge of your seat waiting to see what's going to happen. The Peak of Superstition has a Mothership kind of vibe to it. The sultry verse is super addictive. The chorus has Andrew pushing his vocals, this time just right. He's not too daring, but you could definitely feel like he's giving it a little bit more. To me, this is one of the more straightforward jams that they have where they do everything right. It just feels like a Dance Gavin Dance track just with a different vocalist. That's basically it. This is where the music and everything kind of lines up a little bit better. And then we have the song Stickler, which goes right back to just being different. The music in verse 1 has a breakdown quality to it, while the chorus is pretty much the same thing, just with a chiming guitar thrown in there. The actual breakdown just has the drums speed up a little bit, but to me the constant flow of the song is what keeps you engaged the entire time, and it kind of hypnotizes you. And then we have the song Yikes, which feels, again, a little bit more like Idala, specifically down to just the music. I do like how they switch things up a little bit more with John just doing the chorus all by himself, and the way it builds up going into the post-chorus and then dropping back down into the verse. And I gotta say, I cannot get enough of the transition going into the post-chorus. Will's guitar playing is so beautiful, and John just delivers so well. And then we have the closing track, Descend into Chaos, which is, I don't know, it's got to be my favorite song on this album. It's so good. The vocal trade-off from verse to verse is super cool with the metalcore-esque riff, and it sounds so nasty. The chorus is brilliant. It's very catchy. It gets stuck in your head. It's something you want to hear over and over again. And I love that they finish off this record with some ferocity. They don't die down. To me, this is one of the more hyped up, super intense songs on this album, and everything about the song to me is perfect. It sounds like an evolution of Dance Gavin Dance. It has the new vocalist in there. He finds his spot within the song really well. The drums, the melodies, the riffs, both vocalists, they all have their shining moments within this part. So this album has some pretty good bangers, but I will say Dance Gavin Dance has changed their sound quite a bit. I personally like it when Will's guitar playing, his little wheedly doos, his swan core stuff, whatever you want to call it, is more front and center. And he didn't really do that too much. I mean, his technicality is there. He's doing some stuff, but it's not like smack you in the face, here's Will playing the guitar, like on almost all of their other albums, at least a few times. And for me, I missed that. I listened to Dance Gavin Dance for the Wheedly D's. I want Will Swan to do what he does, and I want it to be like in my face. So that was kind of a drawback for me. Also, Andrew doesn't really fit into every song perfectly. At times he just sounds a little too generic. Honestly, he just doesn't have a unique enough presence to his voice to really stand out all that much. And like I've said many times, he doesn't push himself where I feel like if he did, it would be like, whoa, like this is really good. I feel like it would stand out a lot more. But then there are times when he fits the song really well and it sounds like gold. So it's also just kind of hit or miss. People will complain that they changed their sound. They're gonna hate this album, probably not give it, a solid try, or they're gonna write Andrew off. But I feel like with time, he's going to find his place in this band a little bit more. I kind of feel like this is more of a trial run. Sure, he's been with the band for a while. He's sung the parts and all that other stuff. But I feel like they're kind of redefining what Dance Gavin Dance sounds like with the new vocalist. Normally it's just they bring in a new vocalist and this is us with the new vocalist. But now they're bringing in a new vocalist and they're just changing the whole band around. And I feel like this is a pretty solid start to that. Like, I don't hate this album. So with all that said, I gotta give Pantheon by Dance Gavin Dance a 7.9 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. I have a feeling most fans will be pretty accepting, but at the same time, I feel like it's going to be pretty divisive. So yeah, leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of Pantheon, what you would rate it, what your favorite song is. Also, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a like. And if you want to help support me further than that, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon. I'm like 35 subscribers away from 1,500 subscribers, which is a wild number. I've never asked people to be like, come on, we need to hit 1,000 subscribers, anything like that. But it would be really cool to hit that number. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, I think like 90% of you guys aren't. So yeah, please consider subscribing. It would help me out a lot and it'd be cool to hit that number. It would just, I don't know, I'm shocked even 100 people or 10 people like to listen to me, but 1,500 would be just insane. So yeah, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me sit here and talk about music. And I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this. And I'll talk to you guys next time.